Ready to rock and roll? Sarah, you ready? I haven't even done this in a very long time. Very good. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. Our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Kamer. Aye. Lombardo. Aye. McKittrick. Aye. Malik. Aye. Neal. Aye. Amobian. Aye. Samples. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, if you voluntarily wish to do so, we're going to ask that you stand. We're going to be led in prayer by Councilman Mike Freeman. Immediately following our prayer will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Baylor.
Okay. Let's pray together. God, we're reminded of the words of the psalmist. He says, what is man that you are mindful of him? And we're thankful, God, that you are mindful of us and that you know us by name. And that you know even when a sparrow falls to the earth, you're conscious of that. So how much more do you care for us and know of us and our needs, our desires? We ask this evening that our desires might be your desires and that we truly would have hearts that would say, thy kingdom come. We pray in thy name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And welcome back to Chambers. It's good to see everyone out there. I'm used to looking at myself on the computer screen, so this is nice. At this time, the minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second. Roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Kamer. Aye. Lombardo. Aye. McKittrick. Aye. Malik. Aye. Neal. Aye. Amobian. Aye. Samples. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Motion to approve. Councilman Fusco? Motion to approve. Do you have a second? Councilwoman Samples, thank you so much. Roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Kamer. Aye. Lombardo. Aye. McKittrick. Aye. Malik. Aye. Neal. Aye. Amobian. Aye. Samples. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
Thank you. Our next order of business for this evening will be the election for the Ward 1 council vacancy. Councilman Fusco was the chair of our steering committee, and just going to ask if Councilman Fusco will give the screening committee's recommendation.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. The recommendation of the screening committee is for the appointment of Nancy Holland.
Okay, so we do have a recommendation, nomination on the floor for Nancy Holland. Do we have a second to that motion? Second. And we have a second. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Seeing and hearing none, we will close nominations. At this time, I will appoint Sarah Biviano as our chief teller to pass out ballots. Again, in accordance with our open records law and the opinion of the Attorney General, secret ballots are not permitted. Therefore, your ballot does have your name on it. Councilman Neal?
Is this appointment for someone that's not going to run again, or a placeholder, or are they?
Did you have a question? You're more than welcome to ask the question.
Yes. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, is this appointment for someone that's going to act as a placeholder, or do they intend to run again?
I believe they're, this particular individual, I believe that they will be running. I don't believe this will be for a placeholder.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the response. What did you say, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
It's a placeholder?
No, a placeholder, they will be running.
Oh, the person.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to appoint 3 council persons just to act as a judge as we tally the votes. I'm going to ask if Councilman McKittrick, Councilwoman Baylor, and Councilwoman Amobian will assist us. All right. The results are as 11 with 1 abstention. Okay. At this time, we're going to have our clerk read in our resolution. And I'm sorry, this will be the most important thing. You want to know who those 11 votes were for? Sorry. Nancy Holland.
It's a resolution appointing Nancy Holland to fill the vacancy in the Akron City Council Ward 1 position until a new Ward 1 representative can be elected at the next regularly scheduled primary and general elections, at which all electors of the city are eligible to vote, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you so much. So at this time, can we please have a motion to suspend our rules?
Motion to suspend the rules in favorable report.
Thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor. Can we get a second? Second. Thank you. Roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Kamer. Lombardo. McKittrick. Malik. Neal. Amobian. Samples. Somerville.
Aye.
Passes 11-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Nancy Holland. So Nancy, at this time, if you would please come forward so that you may be sworn in by Judge Stormer. Your husband's more than welcome to come with you.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, the Charter of the City of Akron, and all the laws, statutes, ordinances, and resolutions enacted thereunder, and that I will honestly, impartially, and faithfully perform the duties of the office to which I have been elected to the best of my ability and understanding. So help me God. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
It's all in the paperwork. That's what government's about.
Isn't that the truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And I present this to the clerk of Akron.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much for that.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Councilwoman Holland. You are more than welcome to take your seat right in between Councilman McKittrick and Councilwoman Amobian. Okay. Our next order of business will be for the election of our President Pro Tem for Council. So at this time, we will take nominations from the floor. Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. I nominate Councilwoman Linda Amobian because she has the temperament, the legislative experience, and she has shown great leadership even when we've had adversarial moments here on council. So with that, I nominate Linda Amobian.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Samples. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a second. Thank you. Are there any other nominations from the floor at this time? Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to nominate Councilman Mike Freeman. He's a councilman that has served President Pro Tem, Vice President, and Council President, and I think his leadership is needed as we move forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second on that nomination?
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. Are there any other nominations from the floor at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we will close nominations. Again, Sarah Biviano will be our chief teller, and she will pass out ballots at this time. Okay, and at this time, we will appoint 3 judges. Councilman Malik, Councilwoman Samples, Councilman Kamer. And the election results are as follows. Councilman Mike Freeman, 8, Councilwoman Amobian, 4, and 1 abstention. The new President Pro Tem for Akron City Council is Councilman Freeman. Congratulations.
Madam President, can we get a roll call, please?
Sure.
Baylor.
No, you. Now,
This is my first time doing this, okay? It was in grace. So what am I just saying?
Who are you voting?
Freeman.
Connor. Freeman. Freeman. Fusco. Holland. Kamer. Lombardo. McKittrick. Malik. Neal. Amobian. Samples. Somerville.
Freeman. Thank you. We'll now move into our old business. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
We have a substitute, I believe, that want to read in.
Yes. Substitute offered as an amendment offered by Councilwoman Amobian. Resolution expressing support for Senator Vernon Sykes and the members of the Democratic Caucus in their decision to vote against HB 110, the state operating budget, based on the inclusion of certain concerning provisions, and calling on the Ohio General Assembly to pass a conference bill that does not include such provisions and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Thank you. The committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This afternoon, in committee, Councilwoman Amobian did a stellar job of explaining just what is in this resolution, and if I may call on her again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Essentially, what I said this afternoon is what I'll try to repeat this evening. One of the things I've heard over the years from those who represent us in Columbus is that they do not get enough letters and written statements of support when they are out there supporting issues that are favorable to us. And I just want to read a portion of what Senator Dr. Seitz said. He said, while Senator Seitz recognized the inclusion of a number of beneficial provisions, Senator Seitz criticized the budget for failing to invest in a strong recovery that gives everyone the chance to build a better future for themselves, their families, and prioritizing income tax cuts for the wealthiest Ohioans instead. And HB 110, as passed by the Ohio Senate, includes a number of troubling provisions that would have negative impacts on Akron residents. The current bill contains a provision that would significantly limit municipal broadband systems at a time when local governments are seeking to partner with such systems in order to expand internet access to residents, particularly children who lack this critical resource. I think many of us, we had a meeting with the Akron Public School Board not long ago, and we were talking about broadband access for those children who were doing online schooling at home who did not have it and could not afford it. And we are talking about broadening our system to help those individuals. The current bill also includes a provision that would increase property taxes on affordable housing units, making it harder for the cities like Akron to deal with housing and eviction crises impacting many residents. During this time, when many individuals are struggling to make ends meet and lines for food pantries are long, and we know they are long, not only do they impact citizens of Akron, but they impact many of our residents that are in other more affluent areas of this county. HB 110 limits access to the SNAP food stamp program by including the value of a vehicle in the measurement of a person's income. And whereas the Senate bill ignores school funding reform being considered by the Ohio House, it also instead relying on a funding formula that Senator Seitz calls inadvertently short-sighted. And whereas HB 110 also includes a change to the municipal income tax system, now this would really harm Akron, allowing individuals who worked from home during the pandemic to seek a refund of tax dollars already paid to cities, which would harm Akron and other cities that rely heavily on income tax collections. These are just some of the provisions that are disturbing and troubling that could impact us negatively in other cities like Akron. And there are a number of the issues that are in this resolution, but I thought those were the ones that were most salient that we could focus on and know that this is not a real good bill. And I think the support that we could give our fellow comrades in Columbus, the better off they would be in knowing that we feel that this is adverse to our benefit. So thank you very much for allowing me to highlight those.
Thank you. Wonderful explanation. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. Councilman Neal?
Madam Chair, if it's just okay with the sponsor, I'd like for us to make that mayor and council as a whole, please.
Very good. So we do have a motion on the floor for mayor and council as a whole. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. At this time, we're going to kind of go back. Now we're all here. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good. Any nays? Okay. And we have one abstention. Okay, the ayes have it. Roll call.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, and Somerville. This passes 12-0 with one abstention.
Thank you. Continuing with our old business, planning and economic development, Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. The request of the committees to place item number 1 on the consent agenda.
Item number 1 will be placed on the consent agenda.
Time on the balance.
Time will be granted. Public service, Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. File 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. All items will be filed. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Continue time, please.
Thank you. Time will be granted. That concludes our old business for this evening. We'll now move into new legislation, rules.
Item 0, offered by President Somerville and Councilman Fusco. Ordinance enacting Section D of Akron Charter, Section 141, by amending and/or supplementing Title III Administration, Chapter 31, Departments, Boards, and Commissions, Section 31.05, Boards and Commissions of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Akron, Ohio, and adopting and/or enacting Chapter 33, Public Meetings and Records, Title III Administration, Section 33.03, Public Meetings, in person and remote, of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Akron, to establish that council, boards, commissions, committees, agencies, or similar bodies created by Akron's charter or by action of the mayor and/or Akron City Council, now or hereafter, may hold public meetings in person or remotely, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
With your permission, could I ask Ms. Nish to give us just an overview?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Councilman Freeman. So essentially, this ordinance codifies the charter amendment that the Akron voters passed last November that authorizes City Council and all of the boards and commissions of the city to adopt rules and regulations that would provide for video conference or teleconference meetings, similar to what this body has been doing for the last year. Obviously, council is now returning back to in-person, but this allows the legal framework for boards and commissions to do that in the future should the need arise, whether that's from a health emergency or something else. And again, it's up to each individual board and commission to adopt rules after this ordinance passes to decide when it's appropriate for them to hold meetings by video conference. And again, they'll be live streamed or made available to the public as they have been throughout the pandemic.
Thank you. I don't know if the sponsors would like to add anything in addition?
No, I think that's
very good.
perfect.
With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I abstain. And we have one abstention. The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, and the vote was 12-0 with one abstention. Item number 1 was the substitute in budget that was already voted on. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct storage buildings at 101 Fulmer Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For and advertise for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an automatic car wash at 917 East Talmadge Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For and advertise for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a permanent supportive housing facility at 808 Allen Street, parcels 6700086, 6715022, 6703755, and 6724566, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance approving the sale of city-owned property located at 273 North Howard Street pursuant to the city's Allot for a Little program in order to facilitate the productive reuse of the property and to reduce the cost to the city and the taxpayers in maintaining vacant lots, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
For.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Samples, resolution declaring it necessary to improve certain streets between certain termini 2021 Phase 1 Arterial Collector Resurfacing Program by resurfacing such streets with asphaltic concrete 402-404 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, this resolution is necessary to improve certain streets here in the city of Akron.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have one abstention. The ayes have it. Roll call.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville. Passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 7, offered by Samples. Resolution declaring it necessary to improve certain streets between certain termini, 2021 Phase 1 Residential Resurfacing Program by resurfacing such streets with asphalted concrete 402-404 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples.
Yes, the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 abstention, and the ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, and Somerville. It passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 8, offered by Samples. Resolution declaring it necessary to improve certain streets between certain termini, 2021 Phase 1 Unimproved Street Resurfacing Program by treating the surface thereof with substances designed to preserve the surface and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, this resolution is for unapproved streets, and we're asking for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 abstention. The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, and Somerville. It passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 9, offered by Samples. Resolution declaring it necessary to improve certain streets between certain termini, 2021 Phase 1 Partial Depth Pavement Replacement Program by repaving such streets with asphalted concrete 402-404 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This resolution is to improve certain streets in the Partial Depth Pavement Replacement Program, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 1 abstention. The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, and Somerville. It passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 9A, offered by Councilman Fusco and Councilman Freeman. Resolution acknowledging National Pollinator Week and recognizing the important role that pollinator species play in maintaining a healthy ecosystem and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Before COVID hit and we were all together, this is a piece that Councilman Rich Swirsky was working with Michelle Colopy, and I'd like to defer to Mr. Fusco because he's done the lion's share here, if you would please.
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. Yes, thank you. As a matter of fact, this here, we were working on it, and there's going to be more coming in terms of the pollinators and such, in the form of an ordinance. This is a resolution recognizing this week is Pollinators Week. As a matter of fact, Michelle Colopy is here, and appreciate all of her efforts with regards to this effort. Michelle is the president of the Lead for Pollinators. I guess a good way of putting this, our very own watershed superintendent, Jessica Glowinski, I believe is how you pronounce her name. And she was in the meeting, but she didn't know when to jump in, so she sent me an email, and this is, I would like to read a portion of it. National Pollinator Week was initiated and is managed by Pollinator Partnership. and 14 years ago, the U.S. Senate's unanimous approval and designation of a week in June as National Pollinators Week marked a necessary step toward addressing the urgent issue of declining pollinator populations. Pollinator Week has now grown into an international celebration promoting the valuable ecosystem services provided by bees, birds, butterflies, bats, and beetles. Things we can do as a community to help our pollinators include planting pollinator-friendly vegetation and/or landscaping and gardens, reducing the use of pesticides that may hurt pollinator populations, supporting local bees and beekeepers by buying honey products and produce from local sources. Obviously, as we all know, our friend Rich Swirsky was big on the environment, and this just fits right in, and it's within this ordinance, and Michelle brought that forward, and appreciate that effort. And so with that, ask for approval this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Just something came to mind as Councilman Fusco was speaking. I'm not sure if we are able to, or if we want to, maybe add something with Rich Swirsky's name to this ordinance. I don't know if that's possible. Oh, it is?
It is.
I apologize.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Kamer. Yep. All right.
With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. So the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. No opposes. The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Holland, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, and it passes 13-0. Item number 10, offered by Samples, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the resurfacing of the existing basketball courts located at Stoner Hawkins Park and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Councilman Neal, you're going to report out for us?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Committee's request is consent agenda.
Okay, this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Samples, ordinance ratifying the actions of the Deputy Mayor for Integrated Development in contracting with Kaboom Incorporated and the Akron Parks Collaborative for the creation of a playground located at Care Park, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Neal?
Yes, committee's request is consent, please.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. I'm going to ask, when you hear your name, that you please approach the podium. Please give us your full name and your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. You are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. We will first start with Nicholas Cassiopo. Oh, and also, please, excuse me again, on our first time back, it's going to take us a little bit to get adjusted. So before we move into our public comment period, I'm just going to ask everyone who has submitted a public comment request form, if you please stand so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department. If you have filled out a form and you plan on speaking this evening, please stand so that you can be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Okay, those wishing to speak during public comment, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please answer, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Nick Cassiopo. I live at 41 Marshall Avenue, Akron, Ohio. I first want to urge City Council to reconsider its public comment policy. It is incredibly ableist and exclusionary to require folks to be in person to have their voices heard. Disabled people, elderly people, people without reliable transportation, houseless people with curfews, people with child and family obligations, and working people often cannot make it here. The ability to have email and voicemail comments is crucial, is pretty simple, and would drastically increase participation. I know none of you are opposed to hearing from more of your constituents. So I hope you'll prove me right that this body wants to encourage participation and you'll allow email and voicemail comments once again. I'd also like to take a moment to speak to the city's treatment of our unsheltered neighbors. Folks in 2 area encampments were given just 1 week to take whatever belongings they could carry and move. Only some of these people received temporary motel vouchers, which are set to expire in a few days. Some missed CSS workers the 1 day they were down at Grace Park. Others were outright denied vouchers because they did not have substance abuse problems. And an entire camp of 20 people were left in limbo with zero communication from the city and CSS. These people have nowhere to go, they've been destabilized, and have been severely traumatized by the city's threat of violent displacement. It is psychological terror to threaten these people with dispossession. If any of you or the mayor were treated with the same way you treat houseless people, you would not tolerate it for a second. You would call that treatment a crime against humanity. But since none of you face houselessness, you could care less about the physical and mental toll the city's violent actions have on our most vulnerable people. The fact that y'all and the mayor sit here and do nothing for houseless folks while they are much more likely to be black, to be disabled, to have mental health issues, and to be queer tells me you truly do not care about these vulnerable populations. A good friend of ours who is disabled and has congestive heart failure has had a housing voucher for nearly a year now, but not a single landlord will accept him. He was never given a motel voucher the day CSS came to visit the folks at Grace Park. When he made the trek to CSS earlier this week, he was outright denied a voucher and told that ship had sailed. Today, when we took him to CSS once again, he was told the voucher coordinators wouldn't be available until Wednesday. Words cannot describe how disgraceful this treatment is. You all should be absolutely ashamed that you govern a city that treats its people so poorly. These people do nothing to anyone, but you and the mayor revel in torturing them and denying them the most basic of human rights. And I would love to be proved wrong on this, truly, but so far your actions and the actions of your mayor scream apathy and contempt. I do appreciate Council Members Malik and Samples for their work on this issue, but the rest of you must do better. Thanks and have a good night.
Thank you so much. Gage Gallup.
Hello? Okay, there we go. My name is Gage Gallagher, and I live at 166 North Portage Path in Ward 1, and I'd also like to speak about the houseless camps. I spent the better part of my morning this morning down in Grace Park helping these people get their tents out, take them somewhere else so that the city doesn't come through and take their stuff. And I talked to the people around there, and I spent some time down there with the folks, and it seems that even still, years later, since I myself have been houseless and moved out of that space, that the treatment that these people are receiving from the city is unacceptable. There are so many services that we offer, but they are all almost by design completely inaccessible by these people. We have vouchers that aren't being accepted. We have the only men's shelter in Akron, the Haven. It's not providing adequate support, and I know that from experience because I've been there. I have lived in there, and I have moved on, even to a point where I'm applying for public office positions and speaking with some folks like you guys just the other week. And I think that it's also, if we can't appeal to your hearts, let's try to appeal to your wallet, right? We're spending all this money over and over and over for years and years and years, sending crews through to sweep out these encampments in these locations, and that's got to cost a lot of money, right? So why not take that money and stop doing that and push that money into more resources, more addiction services, more mental health services, stuff like secular shelters and sanctioned encampments to help solve this issue permanently. It seems so silly to me to keep wasting our time and spinning our wheels for a Band-Aid solution. It doesn't make any sense. And I implore you to think about that and to talk about that amongst yourselves at your next private meeting or whatever you all have, and take some action. It was me and 2 other people down there this morning, and it was just very, very disappointing. It was very sad to be helping all these people clear this out just by ourselves. And you know, I had the opportunity earlier this week, or I guess it was last week now, to speak with the, I think it was called the screening committee, because I had applied for Ward 1. And I spoke with you all about building up our communities from the bottom, and this is what I meant. If we don't have a solid base, if we're not helping the people at the very bottom, people aren't going to want to come here. People aren't going to want to continue to move here as we develop out and leave the people at the bottom out. That's all I have to say. You guys have a good night.
Gage, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Colopy?
Well, thank you. Yes, I know Councilman Fusco asked that since the resolution has passed for National Pollinator Week, and thank you very much. I did send you written testimony, so I won't take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Harrington Hargrove?
Good evening, Council. It's a pleasure to be back in front of you, and I'm here in reference to the American Rescue Act and the Elevate Akron study. I would like the City of Akron to use a portion of that funding to correct the wrong that the Elevate Akron study found, that the City of Akron has excluded the Black community from economic opportunity. The Black and brown community has suffered the most with the coronavirus, more than anyone. So we are deserving of these funds. Now it's time for the City of Akron to allocate the necessary fundings to elevate the Black community for upward mobility. I live in Ward 3, and for 30 years I've been asking this council to invest in the Black community in Ward 3. We have been redlined of opportunity in a community where the city has spent over $100 million for business development. I'm asking the mayor, city council, and Margot Somerville, president of city council, to formulate a plan of inclusion for the Black community. Racism is a sin. I would like to have a meeting with the city officials to be a part of the solution of the problem that plagues the Black community. We have community leaders that can work with city leaders to make our community prosper and grow. So let us help make this happen. I thank you for your time, Council. Please, let's make this a reality. Thank you for your time. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hargrove, for sharing. Reverend Samuel Boykin?
Good evening. I thank all of y'all for the opportunity to stand before you this evening and speak concerning the issues that I want to bring forth. I want to address some of the issues that cause...
Just for the record, could you please give us your name and your address?
Okay. My name is Reverend Samuel Boykin, and I live at 1308 Seward Avenue, Akron, Ohio, zip code 44320.
Thank you.
And I'm here this evening. This is my first time standing before the council, and I appreciate y'all giving me this opportunity. I would like to address homelessness, and I would like to address it from the position of predatory tax collection. And I own 2 properties here in Akron, Ohio, that are under those circumstances right now, and I would like council persons to take a look at what I'm saying, so I'm going to try to bring this forth in detail and slowly. One of the houses is at 1043 Hartford Avenue, and it's my mom and dad's house. It was paid for in 1963. They moved into that house, and it was paid for 8 years after. And my mom passed in 2010, and the house sat there. I wanted my sister to take over as administrator of the estate, but she didn't. And so as time went on, I paid taxes on it, kept the property up and everything, waiting on her to try to get over the death of my mom. And what happened was I had to move forward and become an administrator of the estate. But the property was transferred into me and my sister's name due to a misunderstanding at the help desk. But let me get to the issues. What happened was when I checked out how the tax collection was taking place, which happened to me in 2009 at my personal home, I was being charged $1,000 a year over what the property was worth. And in order for me to fight that issue, I had to pay an appraiser $600 and then go downtown and go through all of what you go through to try to get them to lower the taxes. Now, they did lower the taxes, and I ended up paying $997 a year. But the years that I paid those extra thousands of dollars, there was no recovery process for that. So I simply was robbed out of that money and no recourse. I'm now suffering the same situation on both houses, only the house that I'm in is not behind in taxes, and I'm not having a problem paying the taxes. What happened was, as I was fighting the issues at 1043 Hartford Avenue, I get a tax bill in the mail, and all of a sudden my personal property taxes is being charged $500 a year in addition over what I was paying, and I felt like that the tax office was retaliating against me for trying to hold on to 1043 Hartford Avenue. And as I look at this, I have seen quite a few people in Akron, Ohio, in Summit County, that has been going through the same thing. I talked to an attorney at
Sir, your
Legal
3
Aid.
minutes are up. Your 3 minutes are up, sir.
So Reverend Boykin, if after the meeting, if you can stick around, and we'll have someone talk to you, okay? Stick around
yeah.
after the meeting, okay? Because your 3 minutes have expired. But we'll
Okay.
see if we can point you in the right direction after the meeting, okay?
Yeah, I also want to talk about a conflict of interest issue, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Reverend Boykin. Sharon Fan?
Hi, yes, my name is Sharon Pham. My address is 872 Valdez Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44320. My reason today is because I've been dealing with the Akron Police Department, the Summer County Courthouse. Recently, a stalker has been coming to my home, vandalizing my property, stranger, don't knowing. You know, I just started finding out who this person is, and I've been trying to get restraining orders. It took me 2 times to come down to the city if I could get a restraining order. The third time they did. She didn't want to give it to me the third time, talking about some, whatever the case may be. But I had to tell this lady, the court, Carolyn Chang, that the man admitted that he's coming to my house, vandalizing it. I can't sleep. I'm about to lose my job because I can't work. Then the slow police response. They told me it's going to have the police start, surveillance in my area. That does not happen. The prosecutor's office is making excuses for this man. They let him out to the Oriental house. This man ended up possessing a weapon. I lost my nephew with the same incident of not listening to what's going on with the city of Akron. I'm just over it. It's because this man is starting to get very dangerous. He goes to other people's houses, vandalized, setting people's houses on fire. I asked them, why would you consider him to be put into a program when he already is dangerous? This man is dangerous. Now they can't apprehend him. They put him in the Oriental house. He's back again. Now I have to take off work because I don't know when he's coming. He's coming at 5 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm constantly up, down, up, down. I mean, I'm just not being functional anymore because this man is coming to my house. Now I put, reward out for the man, to apprehend him, try to get some type of help. I'm not getting no help from the Akron Police Department. I'm not getting no help from the Summer County Prosecutor's Office. They're not charging this man. He's going to other people's house, setting it on fire. When is he going to come to my house and set it on fire? And I'm in there asleep. You know what I'm saying? I got my grandkids. I can't let them come over anymore because I don't want them to get burnt up or, or something of that nature. I need some help. And they told us they was going, the city of Akron was supposed to put cameras up in the black community. We have not heard anything about that. Slow police respond, 20 minutes for the police to respond. Then they said that if they do pick him up, there's no guarantee he'll be in the Summit County Jail because it's overcrowded. People is assaulting police officers, and they're not even going to jail. So people with assault, they're letting them out. We need bailiffs. We need to make room for these people to go into, whatever, county jail, whatever you're supposed to link up with to make more room. They're letting criminals out, and they're attacking us, and they know nothing is going to be done. I'm a taxpayer. I got 2 homes I'm paying taxes on, and I'm not getting no justice, no sleep, and no peace. I'm tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Fan. After the meeting, I'll be more than happy to talk to you, okay? That concludes our public comments for this evening. At this time, we're going to move into our committee assignments, rules, Councilman Freeman.
2:30.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Samples. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman. Okay, thank you. And I should have done this, and I do apologize. Before we open up the floor for Council for Good and Welfare, we would love to hear from our new Councilwoman, Holland, if she could just give forth some remarks.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
President Somerville, fellow members of council, and ladies and gentlemen, what an honor to be here tonight. I have spent my whole career working with the law, and yet I have worked from a different corner of the legal universe. And I'm so excited to have an opportunity to work with the process of how laws are made. But I think what's really, really moving to me tonight particularly is the idea that I am here to serve with all of you and to perhaps in some small way follow the footsteps and the legacy of my friend Rich Swirsky. It is with a warm heart and yet something of a heavy heart that I think about what brings me here tonight, truly. And I'm so humbled to have this chance to bring my experiences and to gain from all of yours and to have this amazing chance to be in service to the city where I was born, the city where I came home to raise my children, the city that I believe offers the most beautiful and wonderful things, from trees to smiling faces, wonderful public education, and yes, some pain, Gage and Nick. I hear you. But what we have here, and I've lived a few other places, is a kind of constitution, if you will. We have a belief here that we can get things done. And over again, whether it was something small or something really huge, I've watched that happen. We have a certain kind of determination here. And whether it's because some of us have grandpas who were tire builders, or whether it's because some of us can still remember the smell of Quaker oats, or whether it's because, I don't know, we're a little bit on the spoiled side and 5 minutes down the road, we can get to a really beautiful national park. I don't know. I happen to believe we're special here. We don't have it perfect, but we keep working on it. And what a joy, and truly, what what a humbling honor to have this chance to work on it from a whole new angle. Thank you for having me. I feel very, very lucky tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Holland, and again, congratulations, and look forward to working with you. So at this time, we will open up the floor. Is there anything else coming before council? I know Councilman Lombardo does have something.
Thank you,
You're
Madam
welcome.
President. This will be called Get Them While They're Hot, so if I can have some assistance here.
You guys should have practiced.
Okay, this is our new block watch or crime watch sign that courtesy of Akron City Council. So they are in my office. They're our clerk of courts here, clerk of courts, council clerk. Sarah has some too. So if you like them, here they are. Okay, for your block watch meetings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Lombardo, for your leadership and diligence in making sure that we had a fresh design. He said our design was a little old, so thank you, thank you. Is there anything else coming? I think Councilwoman Samples.
I think Rich just fired me as his wingman. I'm sorry. Few things. I do want our residents to know that I am very aware of a lot of our house community being moved out to Copley Inn Suites. Myself and Councilman Malik went down there today to walk around a little bit, to sort of try to get an idea of what we've heard that our houseless community are facing. The one thing, I don't know if we as the city can do anything about it or if we talk to someone at the county. It's good to know that they're getting them placement, but they're placing them in Copley, and a lot of them don't have transportation, and they have to be in the city of Akron for services. Whether they're going to CSS or going to Portage Path, they don't have transportation. So a lot of them aren't going to even take the housing arrangement because they're afraid they may not make it back for services. Hence, they're staying in the woods or staying in their tents because they're not going to have transportation back into Akron. So if that's something we can work on, or even talking to Metro about maybe getting some passes for them, I think we should at least try to do that much in the midst of all that they're going through. I want the residents to know that I hear them. Councilman Malik hears them. We hear you, and don't think that we don't, because we do. Two last things. I want to thank everyone who participated in Juneteenth this weekend. We had Juneteenth celebrations all across the city of Akron without incident. We did have some incidents in our city this week, but they were not at any of our events. And that had to go off to all those communities that put on celebrations across the city. I think they'll get bigger and stronger over the years, and it's good to know that we have a community that's strong and tight, and our young people know where not to go and act up, and they did not act up in these spaces and places. But we do have some issues that we do need to deal with, just on the sidebar. And lastly, I just want to say houseflies are pollinators too. So when you have a housefly in your house, just open the door, don't smash them, just let them out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Samples. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? We have a motion to adjourn. Can we get a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President.